Welcome back to another Diablo 4 video. Today we're going over the Hydra Wizard build for the Sorcerer in the open beta. This build is about as lazy as you would expect it to be if you've played any Hydra builds from Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. You can basically just drop your Hydras and run around, pick up loot, that's all you really have to do. And there's a lot of interacting with objects and prisoners and things like that in Diablo 4, in the dungeons and during events out in the open world. So Hydras are really good for that. You can just drop a Hydra, it'll kill enemies around you while you're interacting with an object. So first up, let's talk about how Hydra works. So you summon a 3-headed Hydra, and then each Hydra head spits fire at enemies. So it's a ranged attack. So you can only have one Hydra out at a time standard, but we do have a legendary power, which we'll talk about here in just a minute, that is increasing that to 2 Hydras at a time. Then the modifiers we're getting through the skill tree, while healthy, which is when you're above 80% of your life, your casts of Hydra gain 1 additional head. And then after you critically strike, your Hydras gain 30% critical strike chance for 3 seconds. So that second modifier there is the main reason we're going to be running Chain Lightning. It's one of the higher crit chance abilities in the entire game for Sorcerer, and it makes it pretty easy to keep up this extra crit chance for the Hydras. So then, like we talked about, that legendary power, that reads you may have 1 additional Hydra active, but Hydra's duration is reduced by 20 to 25%. Now, of course, this build is much more powerful when you can drop 2 Hydras at once, but you can still run this build early on, even if you don't have this legendary item yet. For the class enchantment slot, we're going to be running the Fireball enchantment. This reads, when you kill an enemy, they explode in a fireball for 50% of its damage. So anytime you see just a ton of the fire novas going off, that's what this is. Gives you insane area of effect clear. Alright, let's take a look at the abilities. Now, we're going to start this with no points allocated, just how it would look with a fresh Sorcerer. And keep in mind, this is a direct damage build. You could definitely set Hydras up to be more of a damage over time, burn-oriented build, but we're going for more the direct damage route here. So, once you have the build completely set up, you actually don't have to run a generator at all, but you obviously have to put a couple points in to this first cluster to get down to the second, and early on you may need the generator a little bit more, because it's going to be a little bit before you get to Hydras. You don't start with it. So we're going to put 1 point into Firebolt, and then 1 point into Enhanced Firebolt, and then from there we're going to come down to the second cluster. Now, you're going to kind of have 2 abilities you're dealing damage with early on if you want. So we have Fireball and Chain Lightning. Now, I'm going to put 2 points into Fireball for now, and I don't normally put any points into the tree itself of Fireball. You could if you wanted to. And this is also going to increase the enchantment effect when that unlocks at level 15. Then when you put 1 point into Chain Lightning and 1 point into Enhanced Chain Lightning, this is how Chain Lightning is going to crit constantly and then get that buff for our Hydras to have the Hydras critting more often. And then that brings us down to the defensive cluster. So we're going to put for now 1 point into Flame Shield, 1 point into Teleport, 1 point into Frost Nova. So then we have 2 points left to get down to Hydra. Now you could just put more points into some of the trees here in the defensive side. I'm going to go ahead and just put 2 more points into Fireball. So we're kind of done with that for now. So once we unlock that enchantment at level 15, we don't have to worry about putting more points into that. Because now we really want to just be slamming points into Hydra. So 1 point in, and then Enhanced Hydra, Invoked Hydra, and then just max Hydra out from there. Okay, so now we have 8 points left. So we're going to go back up here to the defensive tree. We're going to grab Enhanced Flame Shield for movement speed, and the big one, Shimmering Flame Shield. Flame Shield heals you for 50% of your missing life. So that's just a massive heal to go along with your potion. And we have a couple things that reference being healthy, which is, again, is above 80% health. And so having another way to heal on demand like this is really, really nice for that. We're going to also throw 1 point into Ice Armor, just a really nice defensive bonus on its own. And then we're going to get a couple points into the Frost Nova tree. So Enhanced Frost Nova is going to reduce the cooldown potentially. And then the big one is Shimmering Frost Nova. Frost Nova generates 4 mana per enemy hit. So this is one of your ways that you're able to drop generators. You can just kind of teleport into a massive group of enemies. If you're low on mana, hit this and, just regen a ton of mana really quick. And again, like I said, you can always continue to run a generator if you feel that you need to, but I've found that with this setup and this build, you really don't need one. So we have 3 points left, and really you could do anything you wanted with these 3 points. I mean, the only things that you absolutely have to make this build work is Hydra, Fireball, and if you get your damage high enough, you may only need 1 point in Fireball, and then some way to consistently crit to buff the Hydras. Other than that, you can mix and match stuff. It doesn't have to be this exact build. You can go into Inferno next if you want. You could even go into some barrier passives. We are trying to stay above 80% health. I go ahead and just go into Inner Flames, though. Your Pyromancy skills deal 3% increased damage while you're healthy. Put all 3 points into there. All right, next up, let's take a quick look at the gear. Now, again, the main thing you're looking out for is that Serpentine legendary effect. You may have 1 additional Hydra active, but Hydra's duration is reduced. It's of course going to be the most powerful item that you can get for this build. As I said earlier, the build is still playable. You may just have to cast other things a little bit more. Drop your Hydra and then maybe cast Fireball more often, or Chain Lightning, or even add in something like Firewall. The only other legendary effect I would really recommend that you get is this one. Each time Chain Lightning bounces off of you, you gain 4 mana. So during boss fights especially, you're going to have Chain Lightning bouncing off of your character quite a bit, and you're going to get mana back when that happens. Now, this you can get into your codex from completing a dungeon. So the dungeon you're looking for is going to be up here. So you're looking for Zenith. All the way on the east side, Zenith right here. You complete this, that legendary effect will be added to your codex, and then when you go to the occultist, you'll be able to add that legendary effect to one of your rares. Alright, so back to gear. So again, nothing else terribly special. This does help out a little bit. Chain Lightning has an extra chance to chain 2 additional times, which means more potential crits, and potentially also more mana back with this. This is extra crit chance against injured enemies. Got extra damage based on how much primary resource we have left. Get a barrier whenever we hit an elite. Can only happen once every 30 seconds. Some health regen, which isn't amazing. And then some other rolls you're kind of looking out for. You want to try to get +1 rank to Hydra where you can, and then plus ranks to conjuration skills where you can. The gear is definitely not completely optimized. You could absolutely get more damage and some better legendary effects going on there. Anyways, guys, I think that'll about wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.